We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. There's a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party.
All right, folks. Well, we got great news for you here today that may, and I don't say this lightly, okay? It may save the Republican Party in 2024 and beyond. It is that monumental because, folks, Ronna Romney McDaniel, the chairwoman of the RNC, is supposed to be stepping down right after the South Carolina primary. This is according to numerous very credible reports, including from people within the RNC itself, and will be handing over the reins to someone new. And we'll talk about all of that in today's video, why Ronna is stepping down and why this is actually so important, as well as some of the potential candidates who are set to succeed her. But first, let's address the question of why I say this is such important news that could literally rescue the entire Republican Party. Well, it is because under Ronna McDaniel's leadership, right? She's been chairwoman of the RNC since 2017. Ever since then, Republicans have basically lost every single election cycle, right? 2018, 2020, and 2022. And arguably, especially in 2022, you could say that it was an environment that should have been very favorable to Republicans. And you ask the question, what happened? Well, I'll explain in this video why a lot of that had to do with Ronna McDaniel's incompetent leadership, especially when it comes to fundraising. As a matter of fact, we're currently in a situation where the RNC is basically bankrupt. She has failed to fundraise so badly that she's essentially ran the entire institution into the ground. She has also lost the trust of the base. Obviously, none of us really like her. I have not liked her much since the end of 2020, but especially with what Vivek Ramaswamy brought up on the campaign trail and sort of mainstreamed this idea to the public, the base doesn't like her. But the argument around Ronna McDaniel could maybe always have been that, well, the RNC chairwoman isn't about being liked by the base. You got to be a bulldog. You got to be competent. You got to be a warrior. Fundraise, do the politics, play the dirty games, just get everything done, get our people elected the way you need to do at all means necessary. The problem is Ronna McDaniel was not doing that either, okay? So, there are a lot of reasons why she is resigning and stepping down. I'm told Donald Trump had a pretty big part to play in it, but I do think we need to give credit here and kind of rewind to when Vivek Ramaswamy was on stage at the Republican debate and with Ronna McDaniel in the audience called her out to her face. Take a listen.
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. There's a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Ross.
Sorry. This is how we get our country back.
Right. So when he went out there and said that, everyone said, "Oh, he's finished. He can't cross the RNC and expect to win the RNC." But I guess when you really think about it, in the end, Vivek kind of did the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing. You know, he basically said, you know, strike me down and I'll be more powerful than I was before, because now we are getting the news again that Ronna McDaniel will be stepping down. Now, in fairness to all of the other factors that are going on here, Vivek just calling her out and helping do our job of making her very unpopular with the base is far from the only reason she stepped down. You know, like I said earlier, Donald Trump seems to have, per the reports, I mean, he went out on Truth Social and criticized her, and then a couple days later, even hours later perhaps, Ronna already said she was going to be stepping down. So it was definitely Trump who led this effort. I think the big question is why? Did Vivek play a factor in it? Did Vivek talk to Trump a little bit about it? Who knows? It's a possibility. I think, if anything, he deserves the most credit for raising the issue of Ronna McDaniel and her problems to the general public. But I think this really has to do, again, with the fact, forget even Vivek Ramaswamy calling her out to the base, she currently has a fundraiser disaster going on right now at the RNC, okay? Like I said, RNC basically bankrupt, out of money. She can't raise money. She can't manage money. Despite being on the job now for almost about 7 years, she has totally been inept at her job. She is not liked by the base, and that's one thing. But when you also are incapable of reaching out to the donors, which I would argue, and we'll talk about when we discuss the RNC replacement, how that's sort of an important part of the job. If you can't get the base to be grassroots and just like you and get behind you, but then you also can't get the donors to come in, and then, you know, you're mismanaging the funds and the RNC is a total and complete disaster, there is no reason, there's no justification for her to have been there as long as she was. And again, I think with new leadership managing the 2024 elections, both at the presidential level and down ballot, our chances of winning just skyrocketed up by about 1,000%, okay? Because the curse that has been Ronna McDaniel and her incompetence is officially lifted, okay? So that is obviously very, very good news. And as Vivek said at various points, it's nothing personal, really, with Ronna McDaniel. Now, there are a lot of personal reasons why I don't like her, okay? First and foremost, she is a Romney, which I wouldn't inherently hold a family name against you, but when you act a lot like a Romney, that is exactly what it is. When Vivek did this, she went out on TV and coped about it and basically deflected about her failed leadership. It's, and basically melted down on the Laura Ingraham show, and that was pretty embarrassing on her part. But I got to be honest, because it's the RNC chairwoman, you know, it's not the president and it's not an elected official, at least in terms of actually holding political office. I could put all of that aside if she just did a good job at winning elections for our people, because that's what the job is really about. That's ultimately what matters. But again, when she's also failed on that front, there is absolutely no reason to keep her anymore. And so this is welcome news. And look, hopefully there's still time. You know, November is still a decent ways away. 8 months, I believe. You know, let's get it together, right? Let's get it together. Let's fundraise and manage money correctly. Let's not have a bankrupt party committee that we're running with. And I think when there's still several quarters left to go in terms of fundraising, approaching 2024, this is especially the right timing, because now we have at least a couple months to get our act together, I guess you could say. With that said, now Ronna McDaniel gone, good riddance. We look to the future and the greater question of who is slated to replace her. We've heard a couple of different names. The main one I've heard is this guy right here, Michael Whatley. He is the state chair of the North Carolina GOP, and we'll talk about that in a second. I guess this other name is here, Drew McKissick, who I think is the state chair of the South Carolina GOP. There's a third name being thrown out right now that I think is a RNC committee man somewhere. And let's talk about that, okay? So listen, first thing I'm going to say, because I already know we're going to get comments like this. Personally, I do not think we need a flashy pick that the base on the internet likes. And what I mean by that, because I know that a lot of people are going to say, no, it should be Scott Presler, or it should be Vivek Ramaswamy or Lee Zeldin. The way I see it, ultimately, right, the job of the RNC chair is, as I said earlier, and the one saving grace that Ronna could have had if she just won us the elections is your job is not to be a 24/7 PR spokesperson or even, a politician. Your goal is just to get in there and be the bulldog that wins us the elections, okay? And so, in my opinion, and this is why I say it shouldn't be someone like a Scott Presler as much as people want to promote him or Vivek or whoever what you want to throw out there, is that I've already laid out for you the situation where the RNC right now is basically bankrupt and it needs to be turned around quickly, right? You need someone who will get in there, start the fundraising, start handling the funds properly, and reaching out to the donors, reaching out to the candidates. You need someone to quickly organize the ship. And my problem with any of these outsider names is, as much as I might like people like that on a personal level, we do not have the time. Let me say this very bluntly, and this is why I'm opposed to picks like that, and I actually like some of the picks here on this list. We do not have the time for them to try to learn the job on the spot, okay? If you made Vivek Ramaswamy the chair of the RNC, what would he immediately do, okay? You may like him there. He may give some good interviews, but does he have connections with the donors already? Does he know the first thing about organizing a nationwide or even a local, just some type of Republican Party? The answer is obviously no. And perhaps with time, someone like that could learn that. But again, this is election year. This is February 2024. We do not have the time for that. We need someone who already has experience with that type of job, which is why I think a state GOP chair is perfect, because if you're the chair of a state GOP, you're just going up to national. There's a few new things to figure out, but mostly you already know how to do the job. I think a successful state GOP chair with a proven track record that can immediately get in there and, reestablish those relationships with the donors, get fundraising together, but also someone who, definitely should be liked more by the base than Ronna McDaniel was, but it doesn't need to be the flashiest person that everyone knows the name of, okay? Because again, that's not the job of the RNC chair. The job of the RNC chair is simply to get in there and do all the logistical work necessary to make sure we are winning the elections. In many ways, it's a behind the scenes job, okay? So I know Vivek, Harmy Dillon, all these different people. My opinion, frankly, that's not what you need. You need someone with experience. With that said, I really like this pick right here of Michael Whatley or Whiteley, however you say his name there, from North Carolina, because I think when you look currently at the North Carolina GOP, that is not a deep red state demographically by any means. It's a slightly maybe red leading swing state, but overall, from everything I've heard, the North Carolina GOP is essentially the most competently ran state party in the country, okay? They kill it in voter registrations. They make sure that all their people can get elected. You look currently at the North Carolina congressional delegation and the Republicans in it. I mean, you talk about, this is my concern maybe with South Carolina is, you look at South Carolina, their governor's pretty good, but we know the reputation that state has for producing rhinos, okay? And maybe for some complacency on that level. The thing I really like about North Carolina is, first of all, if you're already a swing state GOP chair, you know how to act under pressure, because every election's going to be close. 2024, newsflash, is going to be close. At the very least, we have to work hard as if it is going to be close. And, I don't know if a South Carolina GOP chair, for instance, has the experience there. And again, like I said, when you look at just how solidly the North Carolina GOP is being ran, how they're able to hold the line virtually every single election cycle, ever since this guy took over, I think the voter registration has gone way, way up. This is exactly the type of person you need. Not someone flashy, not someone exciting, just someone with a lot of experience who's very good at the job and can immediately get in there and fix all the problems with the RNC within the span of a few months like we need. So I like the North Carolina pick a lot. Don't know much about the South Carolina guy, in fairness to him, but I think that Michael Whatley pick, perfect, in my opinion, to take over. And I think if he does it, and you look at how he's run the North Carolina GOP, if he's able to run the RNC with that level of competence, I really like our chances in 2024. You know, I don't doubt his ability to fundraise. I don't doubt his ability to organize. None of that stuff. It seems to make a lot of sense to me. We'll have to see what actually happens and who ends up really taking it over. I, though, am just certainly glad that Ronna McDaniel is gone. And frankly, even if we don't get the best person in that position, can it really get all that worse than Ronna McDaniel? Okay? I don't know. So in fairness, maybe it's not that much pressure because all you have to do is do a little better than Ronna McDaniel, which I don't think is that difficult to do. But yeah, with that said, folks, let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section down below. Why do you think Ronna McDaniel really is being pushed out at the moment? Do you agree that she had to go? And most importantly, who do you think should take over the RNC after her? Would love to hear your thoughts on all of that. But yeah, until next time, folks, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Alpha moves only. God bless. Have a very great evening and peace.